You have one of the most innovative collaborative governance organizations in North America. What do you attribute the success of that organization to in terms of how it was formed, how it was convened in the beginning, and how you've been able to maintain its success over the years?
I think inclusivity is probably the key word. Making sure that all the elements of a decision-making process, government, private sector, civil society, are fully engaged in the process and treated as equals. And being able to take that philosophy and applying it to multidisciplinary, multi-jurisdictional issues that have a significant environmental, social, and economic dimension to them.
And you've often talked about the importance of a convener with authority and trust in the community that within your working. How do you find these kinds of people who can play that convening role in an effective way?
First of all, I think anybody that's in a decision-making role, government, private sector, or civil society, already recognizes that importance and recognizes the value that they bring to a decision-making process. And so if we can ensure that those types of people are part of our collaborative governance structure, it not only allows us to become much more respected and more credible and legitimate, it also allows us to try and be able to be in a position to make a difference when it comes to decision making. And that's probably the main reason for our success in that collaboratively and collectively constitutes a leadership that the community then respects and be willing to acknowledge and be willing to accept when multi-disciplinary and multi-jurisdictional processes are being addressed.
And have you found it difficult to have government, business, and the civic society sit together on it with an equal footing? Has that been a difficult concept to get people to understand?
Initially, yes, because that's not what they were used to. As in the United States, same in Canada, you have sort of senior levels of government, and people realize that somehow they defer to a higher level of authority. And when it comes to dealing with sustainability issues, people are starting to recognize that it doesn't work anymore. And so it was a tough challenge for us initially. And we had to ensure that people were willing to buy into that concept. That took some doing. I remember our very first meeting as an organization. We had local government decision makers, mayors of communities, and we had First Nations chiefs that lived in the same community but walked down two different sides of the street. And all of a sudden they were sitting at the table together. And it took a bit of a feeling out and understanding each other's perspectives before we could really get anywhere. So it did take some time, no doubt about it.
What's been the most satisfying thing to you in being the director of the Fraser Basin Initiative?
The most satisfying thing for me, I guess, is seeing the evolution and seeing the growth. I think in the formative stages, if you'd asked me what the chances were of getting to where we are today, I would have probably said significantly less than 50%. And probably the most satisfying thing is it's building a legacy. The Fraser River system is a very valued natural treasure, not only in British Columbia, but in Canada. And having an organization now that understands the importance and the significance of that national and natural treasure, and seeing a legacy being built. We're not there totally by any means, but we're certainly a long way and much farther than we were, say, 12, 15 years ago.
And has the success that you've experienced on the ground in communities around the region been helpful to you in sustaining the organization over time?
Very much so, because if we hadn't started establishing the credibility that we've got, we would probably not be around today. Because if you had 3 or 4 key players not recognizing or accepting and seeing the success that the organization's had, could have started a chain reaction and started some negative criticism that would have maybe translated into acceptance by others and would have really hurt the organization. So in the first few years, we spent a lot of time trying to make sure that we recognized the success of others. And our first chair was adamant about that. She said, we want to stay in the background. We want to not be on the radar screen. We want to be very much in a catalytic role making sure that others are recognized for their efforts, working collaboratively. And then over time we realized that we, in order to grow and continue to be accepted, we needed to also take credit for some of our achievements. So we've tried to do it through a partnership approach.
What advice would you have for leaders around North America that want to take an approach similar to the one you did in the Fraser Basin?
The advice that I would give to others would again be trying to understand the importance of working collaboratively, trying to understand the importance of ensuring that all relevant interests are at the decision-making table. That's not always easy because people have different understandings of what a relevant interest is. We've gone away from using the word stakeholder because stakeholder almost goes back to the days in the land purchase area in the United States when people throw a stake in the ground and they pull their gun out and say nobody can touch my piece of land, and so it's almost the opposite of what people look at it right now. So we're moving more towards relevant interests. And it's interesting, one of our speakers this morning talked about people affecting a decision or being affected by a decision. And I like that sort of interpretation. And I think that if people and new organizations and new processes can understand that principle, then they've got a really good opportunity for success.